Yes guys, Jez here, back with another video. You read the title. Bitcoin is about to make a massive move, and you can see right now that we're in a process of that massive breakout. We're still breaking out this falling wedge right now. We've had a massive move towards the upside. We're actually had a nice consolidation, and then we had a breakout. So we need to be seeing if this is going to be a point where we come for a higher low before we move towards the upside. Is this some sort of top where we have a high, a lower high, and then this is the end of the bull market? Or are we just going to remain sideways? We need to be seeing what's next for the Bitcoin price. So make sure to be watching to the end. I have a lot of charts prepared for you guys, looking at all the different scenarios for Bitcoin, and we'll be covering Ethereum as well. So make sure to be staying tuned. Now, before we get into the analysis, make sure to smash up that like button. Let's try to get above 15 likes. That'll be absolutely insane. And with that being said, let's get straight away into towards this banger. Bow. So as you can see, we had a FOMC meeting, and of course, we had a decision where we had a rate cut. It was a 99% probability. So I can refresh this now and it'll show us the probabilities for the next rate cut. And you can see that it's about an 80-20 split. So it's likely we could get some rate cuts. And, you know, of course, the majority is voting that we're not going to get any rate cuts in the June meeting. But of course, it's likely that, yeah, we have a 20% chance we could get a rate cut. You know, we have comments from Powell talking about inflation needs to actually come down. So, of course, it's still on the table. They're still monitoring things, but a main kind of message today was that we had the tariffs, and the tariffs actually increased inflation in the US. And of course, this is due to the high import costs. So yeah, you can see that inflation was slowly increasing for the last quarter, and the Federal Reserve needs to be making sure that they're not cutting rates too quickly in Jerome Powell's opinion. So yeah, that was the main message. And of course, if you look at the Bitcoin price, we were unscathed. Nothing really happened. We just, you know, started to chop around in a shorter time frame, and we slowly started to move towards the upside. But yeah, you can see the daily candle, not too volatile, nothing crazy happening. It's just this small one over here. So of course, it was 99 probability that there was not going to be a rate cut, and that was already priced in. So it's likely we can actually start to move towards the 100k mark if we maintain bullish price action, and then maybe we actually start to just chop around for the weekend. It's almost Friday, so it's likely that, you know, if we don't reclaim 100k quickly and actually turn that into a support, then it's likely we're just going to continue to chop just below it, and then maybe we can tackle that region when ETF flows start next week. But yeah, speaking about the ETF flows, we can see that, you know, we had about 16 days in a row of bullish ETF inflows. So of course, BlackRock are massively accumulating, which is just showing you that smart money knows something. Of course, they know the Bitcoin is likely to be going higher, and yeah, we've been covering this on the channel. So there's been a lot of institutional demand. So you guys can clearly see this in the price action as we're starting to consolidate here. And I think, again, this is some sort of compression before we have a move towards the upside. We had a little bit of compression there if you go on the shorter time frames. We had a bit of compression over here before we come in towards this range. And then that's where we went parabolic. So, of course, this is a massive region where we could be having some sort of compression before we actually move towards the upside massively. And then maybe that's where we're going to start to see some sort of top. But, of course, we'll talk about that when that comes. I'll be making sure to be alerting you guys that we have some sort of top, you know, by potential high funding rates, etc. But yeah, as for now, we're starting to show signs that this could be the start of some massive rally towards the upside. So I'm going to be making sure to be notifying you guys whenever we hit the 100k mark and when it's the best opportunity to be getting into the towards the market, because you can see that we have big support at 92k. We have a very small CME gap at 92. So it's likely we can actually move in towards that level, you know, fill the gap before we actually start to move towards the upside if we get a correction. But yeah, speaking about the CME gaps, we can see that we actually filled our CME gap at 97k. So literally just yesterday, I was telling you guys on X, and this is why it's important that you're following me with notifications on, that it's inevitable that we fill our CME gap, and you can see how perfectly that's happened today. So of course, the CME gap above us has been filled, and we just have a small one below us. But again, it's very small, so it's likely not going to get filled if, you know, we continue to push towards the upside. But yeah, you can see we have a 618 and our 6.5 golden pocket of resistance, and of course our point of control off of low volume. So this could be a region where we can actually start to see a higher low actually start to form in towards next week. But again, the bears are running out of time because the bulls are holding up very nicely. So in my opinion, I think as long as we continue to have higher highs and higher lows in the smaller time frames, then of course Bitcoin is just going to continue to grind towards the upside and grab liquidity. And once that liquidity actually gets grabbed above, that's where we're going to be seeing a massive short squeeze towards the upside. So speaking about liquidity, you can see that the majority of liquidity is actually stacked above 98k on the liquidation heat map on a very short time frame. So this is a 24-hour. And if I just zoom out to get a more holistic view on the 1 week time frame, you can see that there's liquidity on both sides, but again, the closest liquidity and the majority is above us at 98k in towards 100k. So it's likely we could get that spike towards the upside, which is why I'm not remaining bearish at all. I'm just pointing out the relevant levels so that you guys notice what is going to be happening. So if you start to see signs of rejection and we make a first kind of lower low, then it's likely that that's where we actually start to fill this gap before maybe we turn this region into a support. But that's very unlikely in my opinion, due to the market structure right now. We're kind of compressing in towards resistance, which typically leads to very explosive moves. So it's likely we get a move towards the upside. Don't be surprised if you see Bitcoin starting to trade above 100k and start to push towards the upside quite quickly. Maybe you get a high low then and we move towards the upside after that. But of course, in the short term, it looks like it's likely we start to move towards the upside. So I'm not remaining bearish at all right now. And yeah, that's definitely something you should be noticing. You can see we have a Wyckoff schematic. We're exactly playing, this test phase out. We've actually had the spring. So this is where everyone was flipping bearish and we were actually establishing our positions at 74. We had a nice bounce towards the upside, and it looks like this was your region where you had a bit of a test phase, turning your previous support level. So, it turned into resistance, and then you turn your previous resistance level here, that was previously support, back into support again. And it looks like we're actually moving towards the upside. And this is where you have opportunities where maybe we form some sort of flag on the lower time frames after reclaiming 100 and then flipping this mid-range level into towards support. That's where you have your last point of strength before you get a jump across the creek in towards your highs, and then you have another opportunity if we're going to start to push towards the upside. But yeah, I'll be making sure to be highlighting all of these different phases, so make sure to be subscribing with notifications on. And yeah, this is the scenario where we do get a pullback in towards the gap, then potentially we will repeat 2021 where we actually had that triple bottom where the bullish divergence, and then that's where we got a massive push in towards the golden pocket, rejection and continuation. So of course this is not as likely anymore. This factor is slightly outdated. You can see that we're having high highs, high lows right now. So again, the probabilities are decreasing by the minute. And yeah, this is the next signal for the bears that they need to be watching. We're trading in towards this zone. So again, if we can actually flip this zone, which is around 98, and grab the liquidity, and then that's where we actually start to hold this red level over here, then I think this will be a massive region where you can actually start to trade it towards new highs. I definitely think this is not the time to be getting too bearish, as we're still having bullish price action here. But yeah, it's likely that we could get a move down if the bears start to step in towards the weekend where volumes are slightly lower again. Until we actually break above this level, I'm staying quite neutral. I'm waiting for a meaningful direction from the market. The market needs to show its hand. We already established our positions there. This is the time to be accumulating. But again, I'm speaking on the stance of what my bias is right now, and we're stuck near the middle of the range. So of course, it is very important that we actually start to move towards the upside if you're a bull, and that's where you get some support. But do not be surprised if this actually starts to reject in towards the next level of support, and then that's where we get a try towards the upside. So the main thing is this is a massive point for Bitcoin. But again, my bias is that we're going to move towards the upside because I have no reason to be really bearish, although we are trading in towards the zone. It's something to be aware of. But yeah, it looks like we can actually start to push towards the upside. The majority of liquidity is there, so that's a point to the bulls. You have the market structure on your side with some compression. That's another point to the bulls again. And also you can see we're above the yearly open. And typically when we reclaim the yearly open, that's another point to the bulls where we actually start to see parabolic advancements. So yeah, we can look at a fractal for this. You can see the 2024 range. When we reclaimed the yearly open, we went parabolic in a straight line with no meaningful pullbacks. Again, this is how Bitcoin kind of trades if you study it very well. So of course, it's likely this could happen. So again, this is not the time to really be, looking to be shorting when the price action is looking so bullish. But yeah, that'll be it for me. Nothing crazy going on in the market right now. We had an FOMC out the way. We have Waller speaking on Friday, so be watching out for that. And unemployment claims, of course, tomorrow. So I don't think it will be major news to move the market, but anything can happen. So be watching out for those scenarios. We have liquidity at 98 and, the first real resistance at 100K. So be watching for Bitcoin to be moving in towards 100, and maybe that's where we'll get a reaction towards the downside, or maybe we're moving towards 99K or maybe 98. Then people start to flip bullish, and that's where you get maybe your first higher low. So of course, be watching out for those scenarios as well. Be following me on X to be getting up with consistent updates. This is where you'll be alerted first of all the scenarios happening and the latest news. So yeah, I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Have a blessed rest of your day or night. Peace, guys. See ya. Bye bye.